Bishop Romero, just a few words about this prophet more. I think he is a model for so many spiritual leaders today, for us as people of faith. He was like us in so many ways, very silent, aloof, was not known for his bravery or eloquence, but something happened to this man, this person of faith. He got it right. He began to feel, because of his compassion, his good heart, the suffering of others. And that compassion could not be contained. The dogma as a Catholic bishop that dominated him. He freed himself from that dogma and the rules and the regulations of his faith. And he got to the very essence of what God calls us to love, to serve, to heal, to be a peacemaker. And there was no turning back. No turning back. And as a Catholic priest, it saddens me to see, not only in my church, but in other faith traditions, our spiritual leaders who are silent on Iraq and so many other issues. Our spiritual leaders have become the corporate executives. Our shepherds have become government sheep. But we should not be discouraged. At the same time, we cannot wait for them to speak. Perhaps they will never speak. The message, I think, from our Creator, from our God, that we are all called to ministry, to be leaders, to use our voices, as Bishop Romero said, for those whose voices are silenced. And that change, we know, will come from the bottom up, not from the top down. We are the ones here gathered today, and others that we see day in and day out in our families and workplaces. Change will come from us. And we can all do something, and we can do it well. I came back from El Salvador, of course, and could not shut up because of what we saw. Our country there, giving guns and training to those doing the killing. $1 million a day from our tax money going to that little country. But we could not stop that military aid or the bloodshed there. We protested. We went to prison. When we got out, we joined the tens of thousands trying to stop the killing, but we couldn't. They went after the Jesuits now. They ran a university in the country. They were very upset with the Jesuits, as they were with Bishop Romero and the church women and the spiritual leaders and the base communities there. They saw them as los enemigos, the enemy, the subversives, those comunistas they call them. And they entered the university after midnight and dragged these 6 Jesuits out of their rooms. With them a young mother, their co-worker, Elder, and her teenage daughter, Selena. A little massacre. November the 16th, 1989. And this made the front pages of our newspapers. Many of us now began to ask, what's going on in El Salvador? Members of Congress, many of them educated at some of the many Jesuit high schools and colleges in the U.S., were upset, they were angry. They knew some of the Jesuits. They sent a congressional task force to investigate. They came back reporting that those who did the killing were trained in the United States at the U.S. Army School of the Americas at Fort Benning, Georgia. That's when I and friends read that report and said, we've got to go in and investigate that school. And I went early and found this little apartment right outside of the main gate of Fort Benning, which became our SOA watch. We had no movement. We had 10 kindred spirits coming together. A Jesuit, 2 Dominicans, Charlie Lipke, a Vietnam vet, Medal of Honor recipient, 3 Salvadorans. And we began to do research after a very serious water-only fast that went 35 days, which really poked the beehive for the first time there. Our research later showed that this issue is serious, that this school and the over 50,000 soldiers trained here and who continue to arrive, about 1,200 a year from 18 countries, caused untold suffering and death to their people. They learned commando operations, psychological warfare, techniques of torture. Was a part of the curriculum, and that really got the school in big trouble, as did the UN Truth Commission report, when it revealed that those who killed Bishop Romero trained here. Those who raped and killed the church women, graduates. The 28 who killed the Jesuits and the 2 women, 19 of them graduates. And the list went on and on. And as word began to spread around the country about the School of Assassins down in Georgia, it was, as it was known in Latin America, the Escuela de Asesinos. We said, let us go to Fort Benning in November, around the time of the massacre of the 2 women and the Jesuits, and let us keep their memory alive, along with all the other victims. Let us, as North Americans, put our feet before this big military base and say, not in our name, and to try in a humble way to express our love, our solidarity with sisters and brothers of these Latin American countries who are the victims of our country's foreign policy and victims of this training at this school. It was not complicated. And so we went. That first November, small group. The next year, 200. The next year, 500, and then 1,000. This last November, some 20,000. Perhaps some of you have been with us. Could you just acknowledge if you've been down in November with us over the years? When we gather, it's this big celebration of hope. I'm happy to report that this past year, as you looked out at this sea of people down Fort Benning Road from the stage, I would say a little over half were college students and high school students. Mm-hmm. We saw a lot of nuns there who, in the very beginning, came on board. A lot of church folks. I want to say something that's important. In the early days when we started to organize, the very first 2 national organizations to pass a resolution calling for the closing of the school, I'm talking about the early days, was the Presbyterian Church USA.
Amen.